Friday. Last Sunday we talked about the Coptic word re, written as ph, which means sun, and explore some of its relationship with light and fire. Speaking of fire, you might know that Venus is the hottest planet in the solar system. And last Friday, we explored a little bit of the archetype represented by this day of the week and its connection with Venus, Aphrodite, Freya, and so on, ultimately tracing back to Ishtar, also known as Inanna, the Queen of Heaven. I find the queen term a bit problematic, but since we're here already, let's take a look at the letter Kappa, which gave rise to our Q letter. So Kaf or Kap, pay special attention to the Phoenician form, and here we have the letters that derived from Kap, the Greek Kappa and Phi letters, and our Latin Q letter. So let's take a brief look at Kappa. So Kappa is a letter that was used in early forms of the Greek alphabet, derived from the Phoenician Kaf. It was originally used to denote the K sound, but dropped out of use as an alphabetic character and replaced by Kappa. Okay, so the origins of the Phoenician letter Kap is not very clear. They make some disconnected speculations, but we're not gonna go there now. Pay attention to the shape of Kappa and also the sound of the letter Kappa. And let's go to copper. In both mythology and alchemy, copper is strongly associated with the planet Venus and its namesake, the Roman goddess of love, beauty, and fertility. This association stems from Venus' association with love, beauty, and artistic expression, qualities also reflected in copper's physical properties and its historical uses. And then we take a look at the symbol for Venus, which looks similar to the Kappa letter. So the symbol for Venus is believed to represent a hand mirror, often made of polished copper in antiquity, further solidifying the connection between the planet and the metal. And here we have some copper mirrors. We can see it looks similar to the symbol for Venus. And since Venus starts with the letter V, let's take a look at that letter. V from Greek epsilon, from Phoenician vav, from Proto-Sinaitic vav, I'm assuming it holds the same name, which again looks like the Kappa letter. And we take a look at the development of the letter V, tracing back to the symbol. And then they had a chick up here, and it had to be a chick, right? But I think we can ignore this for now. Let's take a look at epsilon. So since our V comes from there, so epsilon or epsilon is the 20th letter of the Greek alphabet, derived from the Phoenician vav. From here, let's go to vav. The hook. Vav is the 6th letter of the Semitic abjads, including Phoenician vav, Hebrew vav, and so on. And since vav is the 6th Phoenician letter, let's take a look at the 6th Roman letter F. From Greek digamma, from Phoenician vav, so again it follows the same development as the letter V. Let's investigate digamma. Digamma or vowel is an archaic letter of the Greek alphabet. It originally stood for the sound of V, but it has remained in use principally as a Greek numeral for 6. And the shape of the letter went through a development from, I guess it holds the same name, so just pay attention at the shapes. The first one looks pretty close to our F letter, but as the Greek digma, it still holds the V sound. Throughout the characters, it kind of looks like a C, and then S, G, and whatnot. You know, it's a shapeshifter. Okay, so the first shape, which looks pretty close to our F letter, looks pretty similar to the Germanic rune Enzus, which means God, something we talked about on Wednesday. So it has the meaning of God, and here more esoteric things, mouth, breath, and communication, although it's pretty relevant to where we're going here. Also, speaking of God, the name Yahweh is actually written with 2 vowel letters, and the word vowel made the word valve flow in. Let's go with this flow. Valve, a device for controlling the passage of fluid or air through a pipe, duct, etc., especially an automatic device allowing movement in one direction only. So hold this, and from valve, we also have vulva, and anatomy, the female part you might be familiar with. So comparing vulva, the female part, with the definition of valve, you can actually find some parallels. So again, a device for controlling the passage of fluid or air through a pipe, duct, etc. Which is one of the functions of a vulva. And since we're talking about the Enzus rune and Freya's day and all that, in Norse mythology, there's the word vulva. In Norse mythology and culture, a vulva, spelled vulva or vala, was a female seeress or shaman skilled in magic, particularly Seidir. They held a respected, albeit often enigmatic, position in society, acting as oracles, healers, and spiritual guides. Key aspects of the vulva. Vulvas practice Seidir, a form of magic involving prophecy, healing, and influencing the future. Seidir was often associated with women, and while men could also practice it, they were often viewed negatively. So from vulva to vowels, how many vowels are there? I'm going back to the very basics, of course. A vowel is a speech sound produced without any significant constriction of the vocal tract, allowing air to flow freely from the lungs. And again, vowel and valve, a device for controlling the passage of fluid or air through a pipe. In the English alphabet, the letters A, E, I, O, and U are vowels, and sometimes epsilon is also considered a vowel. Last Sunday, we mentioned the word Latin focus, which means fire. Now, take a deep breath, and when you exhale, focus on the sound that comes out while you're exhaling. Focus. So we mentioned how despite looking like our F letter, the digma Greek letter actually holds a sound value of V. The Greek letter that is closer to F in sound is the Phi letter. Let's take a look. Here, Phi, 21st letter of the Greek alphabet. Also, they use that to represent the golden ratio. I'm going to leave the fee for another day, perhaps on a Sunday, since we already started exploring pH on a Sunday, and I think it holds relevance to Sundays. But from here, the fee, we have words that are correlated to Friday, such as the Greek philia, which means love. And since we're talking about fee in Greek, let's go to Delphi. So Delphi, in legend previously called Pytho, was an ancient sacred precinct and the seat of Pythia, the major oracle who was consulted about important decisions throughout the ancient classical world. The ancient Greeks considered the center of the world to be in Delphi, marked by the stone monument known as the Omphalos of Delphi. Then Pythia was the title of the high priestess of the temple of Apollo at Delphi. So Apollo was also a name for Helios, the sun god. We can explore the relationship between Friday and Sunday some other time. She specifically served as its oracle and was known as the Oracle of Delphi. Her title was also historically glossed in English as the Pythoness. And since she was the high priestess, and we're talking about very esoteric things and vulva, let's take a look at the card representing the high priestess, which is the second card. I'm not gonna go too much into analyzing this other than paying attention to the number of the card, which is the number 2. So from there, let's follow the numerical patterns and take a look at other cards that compress into the number 2. And there are 3 of them, the High Priestess being the first. The second one is Justice, represented by the number 11, L11 to make things even. And you can see the balance here to make things even, so I think that L11 is a pretty interesting choice of number, although it's an odd one. And the third card is Judgment. So we have the High Priestess, Justice, and Judgment. It's an interesting pattern when you combine those 3. Since Judgment is the 20th card, let's go back to Epsilon, the Greek letter, which is also the 20th letter. Oh, there's this piece here. Epsilon is known as the Pythagoras letter because Pythagoras used it as an emblem of the path of virtue or vice. The Roman writer Persius wrote in Satire 3, the letter, which spreads out into Pythagorean branches, has pointed out to you the steep path which rises on the right. Since we mentioned the High Priestess, Justice, and Judgment, when we combine them, 2, 2, and 2, we get the number 6. Let's take a look at the 6th card, considering the position of letter F has been pretty consistent, as the 6th letter and the Greek digma letter representing 6, and the vowel letter also being the 6th letter in the Phoenician alphabet. So we have the Lovers, which is pretty relevant to the Friday archetype. Venus is the goddess of love. And here, and we can talk more about love next Friday. And on Sundays too, why not? Why not?